Some viewers may find the following video disturbing. Viewer discretion is advised.
Hey everyone, welcome back to Board Games Unlocked, and today I'm going to be doing a discussion over 20 Strong, Chip Theory's newest game, and also in this video I'm going to be going over their two other decks for this game. So if you're not familiar, 20 Strong is a solo-only game where you have 20 dice, basically just kind of doing a small, I was going to say boss battler, but it's kind of like a mob killing game. At least in the core box, you're just killing, hordes and hordes of enemies, all to eventually get to a boss and defeat the boss by using dice. As far as I'm aware, this is Chip Theory's only solo-only game, and it was pretty interesting because they kind of just, at least to me, they just kind of announced it and was like, hey, by the way, this game will be completely free shipping, and you get 3 decks for like $70, still getting the amazing Chip Theory quality, although albeit, now with neoprene in a much smaller format. But the dice are amazing, the cards are still plastic cards, and you do have 1 chip, so they had to include that, otherwise their name would make no sense. In this video, I'm actually going to be talking about all 3 of them, which is their Solar Sentinels, which is kind of the core game that is what will come in this box, and then they have one Hoplomachus Victorum, which is part of their other games, and Too Many Bones. So, yeah, I'll be talking about all 3 of these. So, what comes in the core box? Well, you have the core box, and then you open it up, and you get basically a generalized rule thing. These are just kind of how you play the game. And you're going to want to understand how the game works through this, but then in all of the other boxes, so here's the Solar Sentinels box, and all the other sets, they're going to have variations of that, but pretty much you learn how to play, and then you play Solar Sentinels, which just is not that far from the rule set, and then it's when you get into Too Many Bones and Hoplomachus that it kind of does more variations. You have your chip, which is your dial. You basically you need this only for very specific things, but and then you have the dice, which come in a variety of colors. You have yellow, blue, green, purple, and red. And then you have 3 stat dice. And the stat dice represent your health, how many dice you recover, and how many reroll phases you get. And what's really interesting about this game, there we go, is whenever you're playing, so whenever you're going over Solar Sentinels is kind of like it's like hordes of bugs coming at you. You have your boss that you don't really know what it is, but various cards will allow you to potentially see it. It's very straightforward. You have 3 decks of cards in Solar Sentinels, and whenever you are going to play the game, you essentially pick one of the face-up 3, and that's the card you're trying to defeat. What's really cool about this game is you actually, I don't know why I'm putting that up, I might look at it, is you don't you can use the dice, as many dice as you want, but you're only going to recover so many. So what's very interesting about this game is that it is basically completely random, and if you know me or anything, you know I basically hate roll to resolve, and that's exactly what this is. Like this gore mouth right here. So it, just double checking something, yeah. So this Goremouth has 4 hit points, and it does 1 damage if you don't kill it. Well, the faces of the dice, similar to Hoplomachus, will show you how many hits there are. On the yellow, there are 2 hits. On the yellow, there are 2 hits. 1 hit and a crit. Crit is always 2 damage regardless of which die it's on. But if you go up to the red doesn't have a miss. Still only 1 crit though. Every die only has 1 crit. Purple has 5 hits, so 1 miss. Blue has 4, green has 3, and like I said, yellow has 2. And you're trying to do 4 damage. You can decide what order and if you really want to try and kill it, you could roll, all of these. And you roll them, and it's like, okay, well, I got a crit, so that's 2, 3, 4, 5. That was actually a really bad roll. But I got 2, 3, 4, 5. That's enough to kill it. However, hits are not the only thing that get exhausted. After you're done killing all the enemies, all the dice that you committed, which are basically the dice that you rolled, they get exhausted. And then you have your character, like the person that you're at, or the person that you are, like this is Pike Master Orlo, he starts with a stat of 2 recovery, meaning that he, during the recovery step, only recovers 2 dice. So obviously you don't want to roll all this for one enemy, and you would recover 2 of those dice, and then you have a smaller pool for the next fight. Here's the thing, is in all 3 of these, that's the gist. Like, you basically go through the same phases with just kind of different rules and really different ways on how you play it. But in Solar Sentinels, what I found kind of interesting, and really in 20 Strong, was how much strategy there actually was. And because I was thinking, okay, it's chip theory, like, I liked 2 of their games, didn't like Hoplomachus, or Hoplomachus Victorum, so I guess 2 out of 4. And I was like, this is a purely just dice chucking game. Like, that's not going to be, like, how the hell do you strategize over that? But surprisingly, you do. And it's really puzzly, and I like this a lot, because whenever you have, in Solar Sentinels, you have the entire stack of, of enemies, which is all of these cards. You just shuffle this deck, and then you make 3 piles of 15. And so you have face-up enemies that you get to decide which one you want to try to kill. Although in Solar Sentinels, you have mandatory cards, so if they're face-up, you have to choose them. But some of them, like this Lots of Larvae, has you add 2 more enemies. And you get to pick, so it's like, okay, that's the one I'm choosing, then I'll choose this one, and I'll choose this one. So whenever you have your active enemies, that's where the puzzle comes in, and that's what I find extremely fascinating about this, because, for example, Goremouth means hits on red and purple deals 0 damage. Okay, well, that's kind of annoying, and it has 4 health. The Arack Squid is at the end of killing the enemies, you flip the top boss card face up. If there's one already there, you discard it and flip a new one, so that one actually allows you to see what's coming up. And then Lots of Larvae means purple cannot be applied to enemies. And what's fascinating about all of these abilities, well, at least for Goremouth and Lots of Larvae, is those are only active as soon as those enemies are alive. So this is where the puzzle comes in. You can decide, okay, well, red and purple deal 0 damage. So the fact that I can't even assign purple in this case, well, that means they're already dealing 0 damage. But I really want to use my red die because it's a consistent hit. So how much dice do I want to commit to try and actually kill these bugs, and in what order? And that's where the puzzle comes in. Now, on top of that, the Solar Sentinels comes with missions. And really what you do, it's really depending on your difficulty level, but you essentially, in the core normal game, you draw 4 and discard 1. So you get to decide which 3 missions you want. The missions can be, you have to use 3 items. You have to defeat 6 level 1 enemies. In a single commit dice step, you commit all dice that are in your dice pool of 3 different dice colors. And the missions that you have to be resolved from left to right because they're face up in front of these decks. So even if you've done like the 3rd mission multiple times, if that's not your active mission, it doesn't count. So you have to be smart about which enemies you're going to fight and in correspondence with the mission. And even though that this game is purely a dice game, like, which, to be fair, there are ways to mitigate it. Like, there are abilities that are like, oh, exhaust a dice in your dice pool to turn hits of that die or misses of that die color into hits. So, like, for example, if you have 4 purples, you have 1 in your dice pool and you roll 3 misses on purples with that made-up ability. It's like, oh, exhaust that purple and turn all 3 of those purple misses into a hit. So there are ways to mitigate based off rolls, and there are ways to increase your stats to give you more opportunities of rerolls. And what's also really cool is in the reroll step, you don't have to keep the dice you just commit. Like at the beginning, it's like, oh, if I did 3 purples, a blue, and a red or a yellow, and I roll those, and it's like, ooh, I didn't get the hits I wanted. I only have 2 more rerolls. All right, well, let me add. You can add more dice. They're going to get exhausted, but it's better than outright dying. So they found a really, really good balance to it with the dice. No, I'm not saying that the dice won't screw you. Like there, it is completely possible that all the dice that you choose, you just do not, you get multiple misses, and then you roll again, and you get misses, and then last attempt you roll, and you only got 2 hits, and there's nothing you can do, and it's like, well, I can only kill 1 enemy, there's 3 enemies here, I have 2 health, they're doing 4 damage, I just lost. And that can happen. Like, it's entirely possible that that'll happen. It's actually happened to me many times, but it doesn't bug me as much, and I think the reason why, and this is huge for a lot of people, and I hear it all the time, and very, very rarely does it ever matter to me, but in this game, it does, and that's the fact that this game is so easy to set up, especially when you know the decks you're playing. Solar Sentinels is the one I've played the most out of these 3, to just really get the core game down, and whenever you just outright die, you're just like, okay, and you just put, all right, well, that set of 3 killed me, so boom, boom. Okay, here's the deck. Shuffle the deck up and set it up for, 15 each, and boop, 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 ready to play again. A lot of people like, because there are games that many people say that's like, this game only took 45 minutes, so, the randomness or the non-strategy doesn't really bug me, and it's like, well, that's 45 minutes. But this game, something about just the sheer simplicity of all 3 of these being a deck, just makes it better. Like, I don't have so many pieces to set up. Like, a good one is Seven Wonders Duel. Like, a friend of mine, him and I don't like that game, he does, and he's like, well, the game doesn't take that long. But it's still it's still a setup. Like, it's not an insane setup, but it's still a setup. It's nowhere near as simple as literally popping a deck out, randomly picking one of your heroes and the boss, and just getting dice ready to go. Like, yeah, you could I don't even organize the dice. Like, I know exactly, and what's cool is on the faces, there are these little notches that show you how many hits they have. So you don't even have to be like, oh, wait, which one was the kind of medium one? It's like, okay, well, just look at the notches real quick. Green has 3 hits on it. And I also really like the fact that you have different heroes that you can play as. Solar Sentinels doesn't have quite as many. There's also only 4 bosses. So the in this game, in Solar Sentinels, there are 6. They're double-sided. But what's also really cool is that some of these, I think 4 out of the 6 are universal, meaning that they can be carried from deck to deck. So you could take Stellar Blade Isolde and play her in the Too Many Bones world. I think that's just kind of neat. Crossing universes, just for some reason, she just pops in through a portal and shows up next to a Gearlock, and she goes and kills Nom or something like that. But yeah, so even though the dice can absolutely hose you, here's what I do. It's a solo only. My mic's over here. It's a solo only game, so cheat. That's not true. You don't have to do that. But I mean, if it's just kind of like, oh well, if it's a matter of just setting it up again, or you just need one more hit, I mean, who's gonna tell? No one. Exactly. So, major complaints, so Solar Sentinels is pretty straightforward. Like, the art, there's not much of it, but the pictures that they do have on the bosses is really cool. They have this nice sheen on it for the red on the enemies. And I don't find the bosses all that exciting. Hell, I mean, I barely even look at the names. Like, I feel like this game in Solar Sentinels is not thematic at all. But you can... The game is kind of... It can be very swingy. You can kill enemies that have amazing items that are clutch. You can get a setup where you don't get any of those items, and it's a lot harder. There are some cards in here that are just like the Swarm Apostle. It just gives you 2 health. That's fantastic. There's Subsumed Sentinel. Gives you a strategy, which strategy is what you need. That determines how many items you can hold and gives you rerolls. There are times where you might not get any stat increases, but for a game that takes like 30 minutes to play, I almost feel like that's including setup. Maybe 45 minutes including setup. Hell, it's not. Why did I say that? It's not 15 minutes of setup. I feel like the game balances itself out. Yeah, I've played games where it's like I'm not getting any stat increases, and other games where I get things that my stats are maxed out. So I always have my pool of dice. I always have as many rerolls as I need. I have the best items, so when I'm going into the boss, it's just like, okay, time to fight the boss. I think I'll use all my dice. Kill all the enemies he brought with him. And, okay, so they're all dead. I'm going to use my item that lets me recover all my dice back. But, so if you're finding the game, like, way too, I guess not swingy, but potentially easy, every one of these has ways to increase the difficulty. And then Solar Sentinels, it is... What was it again? It's based off the missions. So, like I said, core game, you draw 4, you have to complete 3. But you can go up to ranking 6. So you start out as Solar Soldier, then you go to Specialist, Sergeant, Staff Sergeant, Sentinel, and Solar Sentinel. When you run up to 6, that means you have to draw 9 missions and complete 8 of them. But for each rank that you go above 1, you have to banish a die. Banish means remove from the game, or exhaust 3 dice. So essentially, at rank 6, which I have not done, if you want to see me try it, just let me know in the comments if you want to see me try Senior Solar Sentinel ranking. That would essentially mean you would have 8 missions, and the game comes with 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, 8, 9, 10, 11, 12. 12 missions. So, even then you're not going to see all of them when you put them all out. And you would, so there are 17 dice. It's 20 strong because of the 3 stat dice. So, you would either have to banish 5 dice from the game, meaning you have 12 to work with through the whole thing of trying to complete 8 missions, or you exhaust 15 dice, because it's 3 above, meaning you have 2 to work with at the beginning. And then potentially, maybe you'll get lucky and you can start recovering them. That's insane. But it's there. It's there for difficulty. I'm mainly just more impressed with the fact that it is completely a randomized dice chucker at how strategic it is. And in Solar Sentinels, when you're adding in the missions, which they suggest you don't do after your first or second game, which I would also suggest just to kind of get the flow down. Then when you add missions, it's like, oh, I know exactly what I'm doing. Like, Solar Sentinels was sitting at like a 6 for me, but then I started playing with missions, and then it bumped it up a whole nother point. So Solar Sentinels is getting a 7 from me. So, now we go to Too Many Bones. Too Many Bones! Where's the box? Oh, the box is right here. I will say, kind of about 20 strong overall. I hate the storage. I hate it. I hate it so much. And the way it was organized, or is shipped to me, is you have this box. This is nice to hold the dice and then the core game, but then you have these two. And then I got this thing. Like, I don't know what the hell this is. I mean, basically I've been doing this. Like, I've just had that in there. and then this, which is, I think, kind of how it was shipped to me. So I guess this is their idea of storage. I hate it. Like, I wish it was just, like, a way that you could just close it all in. Who freaking knows why they did that. But yeah, Solar Sentinels, 7 out of 10. Really good starting one. But these two are better. Too Many Bones is actually insanely difficult. Like, it's so hard. I don't know why. I don't know why it's so hard. But it feels like Too Many Bones just in this 20 strong set. So you pick a gear lock. There are 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6. You got Figment, Duster, Nugget, Patches, Gasket, and then... Oh, sorry, there's 5. There's 5 gear locks. Because if you're playing with a universal character, then they get a different rule set. But anyway, so you have Figment, Duster, Nugget, Patches, and Gasket. And they have their stats. They have their health, recovery, and strategy. So similar to Solar Sentinels. They have their backup plan, which is basically, in this game, it's misses. So misses are what you use to slot into here and use their backup plan. But you pick your gear lock, and then you pick your Tyrant. And the Tyrants they have in this is Nom, Barnacle, Cinder, and Oxide. So there's 4. And then you make 3 decks. And the decks in this are 5-point baddies. So you have a deck of 5-point baddies. And then you have a deck of 1-point baddies. There's no 20 because the days will never get that high. And because it's solo only, I don't ever think you see a 20 in a solo only Too Many Bones game. But then the rest of the deck are these encounters. So you have Mjolnir encounters, you have Tyrant encounters, and you have Lockpicking encounters. So this deck is just shuffled. Certain number of Tyrant cards are removed because they are based off of, like, however many Tyrant encounters that you deal with will either make the Tyrant easier or harder when you eventually go to face him. So, like, Nom, for example, his health is at 9. It gets bumped up by 2 for each remaining Tyrant encounter in the deck. And the difficulty scaling in Too Many Bones is, I think it's how many Tyrant encounters you don't take out. Let's see. Where are we at? There we are. Yeah, you can go all the way up to Legendary, where you just have all 8. Meaning you have a total of 16 total encounters. So if you just never did any of the encounters, which you don't have to do, you can just purely do baddies. That would be 16 extra health, which would be 25 total health, and you'd probably just get smacked around. But yeah, so this is actually where it starts using this. And this chip here is in Solar Sentinels. It's used to track certain missions, not all missions, but some of them. And in Too Many Bones, it tracks the number of days. And the number of days is also like based off how many encounters you decide to do. Like this, it takes 2 to make a thing called Fight, which is baddie points, which baddie points is, of course, based off your day. In that case, this is baddie points plus 2, meaning you would have your stack of baddies, level 1 baddies, and your level 5. You would just draw 3 level 1 baddies. And this is what's really cool about 20 Strong, is the fact that you've seen stuff before. So you've seen the same icons. You've seen that this is an instant ability you get. You see that this is going to be based on a rule throughout the encounter. Like, well, now I can't find one. Funny enough, I literally can't. Oh, there we go. Dragon Whelp. At the end of the first engagement of the battle, -1 strategy. Well, that's not great. For some reason, the Too Many Bones one was extremely difficult. And I think it's because in 20 Strong, you can pick one enemy to fight. And you'll see a little skull icon that will show that you will have to add additional encounters or additional enemies to fight. However, in Too Many Bones, it's going to be based off of the day. So at 1, yeah, you're fighting 1, but at 2, you're fighting 2 level 1s. And 3 is 3 level 1s, 4 is 4 level 1s, and then 5 is finally a level 5. And then Nom, you need to go up to 9 before you can even choose to fight him. And then at 12, you are forced to fight him. So it's like you're almost always fighting more enemies than you expect. Whereas in Solar Sentinels, it's like, oh, here's just one. You can actively choose that one. Now, I should say to even fight the boss in Solar Sentinels, you have to clear out one deck, at least one deck, before you can choose to fight the boss. So that could skew, if the one deck you have tried to go down is constantly causing more enemies, you might change gears. But in Too Many Bones, you are always fighting more enemies. And that's how it is in the base game of actual Too Many Bones. So it definitely feels like Too Many Bones, which is really cool, just with this dice system. And the dice system basically works the exact same way, except now every blanks you miss, or bones, you can lock in to use your backup plan. And if you ever have 4 blanks of the 4 different colors besides red, you can spend them all to flip to get your innate +1. So like Figment, for example, has to do a lot with scouting. And this is how they kind of mitigate the game, because in the other games, in Solar Sentinels, you kind of are just, hey, this is just kind of what I have to deal with, is what's face up. But after an encounter in Too Many Bones, you can rest or scout. Resting just heals you, which is nice, because you have to have very specific cards that heal you in Solar Sentinels. Here, it's just like, oh, okay, I'm going to rest. But you can choose to scout, and scouting means you just take the top card and you move it up. So it just kind of gives you more options of enemies to deal with. If you have an enemy on the top of a deck that's really bad, or like really brutal, it's like, oh, I know I'm going into day 5. I don't want to deal with that Orc Rager. Okay, I'm going to scout this turn, move it up, and see, oh, it's a Doomed Experiment. Okay, I can handle that. That is kind of like the main crux of Too Many Bones. The encounters, you have your Tyrant encounters, which just tell you, hey, like it's a battle. The lockpicking encounters are pretty interesting. This is where you assign hits. So like this Recyclables, if you take this as an item, then eventually, whenever you are rolling your dice, every hit of a particular color, you can assign to the lockpicking thing. And once you do, and this is neat, because your backup plan, when you use it, the dice get exhausted. In lockpicking, they don't. So in Recyclables, you need 3 green. Once you get those 3, they go back to your ready pool, and then you have the item. And what's also neat is it tells you what's on the back. So like Recyclables tells you when you use a different consumable item, you discard this item instead. So whenever you're done, you just flip it over, and now it's an item you have. So there are those, and then there are the Mjolnir, or Mjolnir. The Molar encounters, which either can be a battle or it can be a different thing, like an event that you can deal with. But however, if you scout this, meaning you don't want to deal with it, then there's a negative effect. So with the Too Many Bones, I do wish there were more kind of Tyrant encounters and lockpicking encounters. I just wish there were more of these. Just like in Solar Sentinels, I wish there were more bosses. I think the enemies are fine, and they're varied enough, but 4 bosses is kind of 6 heroes, that's good. I would have liked to see more characters in Too Many Bones, but I mean, to be fair, if I want more characters, I can just play Too Many Bones, but that's also a way bigger ordeal. I would honestly say, though, for Too Many Bones, if it's kind of like, if you're just really wanting to save some money, but you kind of want to get the feeling of Too Many Bones, this does it. And I love Too Many Bones. It's one of my favorite cooperative games. And this kind of gives that feel. Like, yeah, you're not creating a character. Like, you're not building your character in any way whatsoever. Like, not even a little bit. There's no separate sheet to Figment or to Duster. Like, that's not in 20 Strong at all. But in terms of the core gameplay elements of Too Many Bones, this hits. But yeah, I mean, you get items just like you do in Solar Sentinels. You get instant abilities just like Solar Sentinels. You have your same stats of health, strategy, and recovery. And then you just have the backup plan. So you kind of have an innate ability, and then you have your backup plan ability, which can be super helpful. And then you go and fight the Tyrant, and the Tyrant has his Tyrant battle set up, and then whenever you flip him over, that you apply his effect throughout the battle, and you have to defeat him and all the baddies. I should also say in Solar Sentinels, you only have to kill the boss, but in Too Many Bones, you have to defeat the Tyrant as well as all the extra enemies that he brings in. So, yeah, with 20 Strong, Too Many Bones, I'm going to give it an 8. I like this one a lot. Even though it was brutal, it still had the exact same amount of strategy, but a different type, which is cool. It wasn't just Solar Sentinels re-themed. It incorporated rules, but also, even though you have the rule book and the setup, and then you look at the back, which is upside down, it tells you, like, game adjustments. Oh, rounds are called days, or battle contains the engagement part of the day. I should also say what's interesting about Too Many Bones is in Solar Sentinels, you basically, if after all your rerolls are spent, you take your damage, all those enemies go away. Like, you don't keep enemies around to fight. You just keep going. Too Many Bones doesn't do that. The dice you committed to defeat enemies, those go away, but if you didn't defeat certain enemies after taking damage and doing all those steps, they stick around. You do another round until you actually beat them. I thought that was interesting, but kind of made sense considering that instead of the grid of Too Many Bones, it's not just like, oh, well, that was one round, guess we're done. You go until one side wins. So they have that in here. So, yeah, I think that I would have liked to see a little bit more variety. The Tyrants they have, it like I said, is Nom, Oxide, Barnacle, and Cinder. Maybe they'll do mini packs for that, for this, but I don't see them doing that. And even though this had a few more steps, like a few more elements in its box, honestly, setup is basically the exact same. Little bit more decks you just have to shuffle, but once you kind of play it a couple times, you're good to go. So that was Too Many Bones, 8 out of 10. And then we get to Hoplomachus Victorum, which you would think would be my least favorite, because out of the three, well, Solar Sentinels doesn't exist. Too Many Bones, I love the actual game for it a lot. Hoplomachus Victorum, I did a mini campaign for it, and it was not my favorite. This is fantastic. This one is really, really good. And also, the one with the most variety, funny enough, I think anyway, which was kind of a bummer because I wanted Too Many Bones to have the variety. But if you don't want to spend the money, or better yet, the time to play Hoplomachus Victorum, I'm telling you, get 20 Strong and get this, because This one, like I said, has the most variety in it. It has 9... Oh, crap, what do they call them? 9... Scions. They have Hoplomachus, Divisepid, Zahak, Tawoti, Calliope, Camazotz, the Hydra, and Pluto. So you have your 9 Scions there. Then you pick your actual fighter, which they have a bunch for them as well. And by a bunch, I mean... Oh, sorry. And it's a Kane. Itzum Cabane. So, there's that. I'm trying to find the... There we go. There we are. Okay. So, they have, 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, 8, 9. And then for the characters that you play, they have 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7. They have 9 as well. They have Sea Strider, Aprilis, the Parthian, Decimus, Nox, Kraken Lance, Virgo, Styginia, and Bing King. So there's already that. And really, all you do, there are these 4. You have your tactics, like you do in Hoplomachus. You have the boost, bolster health, adrenaline, hamstring, and stun. Those are essentially items you can get. And what's really funny and super cool is they have organized the way that this game is laid out kind of in the shape of a mountain. So you have 3 different types of encounters. You have your blood sports, or your blood games. You have your sports, and then you have your opportunities. So similar to the 3 decks that you have in... what were they called? They were called... Here we are. Bloodsheds, not blood sports. Bloodsheds, sports, and opportunities. So similar to the 3 decks you had and the various spaces you were, depending on where you were at, except there's no, like, map rules you have to deal with. But you have those 3 types of encounters, and you shuffle this massive deck, and you put it in a pyramid of 6 cards each. So you do 4 decks of 6 cards at the bottom, then 3 above it, then 2, and then the Scion that you chose at the very top. And funny enough, the last game I did was the one I did for my series. It's a Cabane, and then I did Decimus, which was kind of neat. But then on the back of all of these cards are the Primus rules. So after you pick your character, you shuffle the unused ones and take 3 of them, and then you flip them over and you assign them to various sections. It shows where to put them. They're numbered, where to put the Primuses, and then if you increase the difficulty, that means you have more Primuses to deal with. Where is it? Yeah. If you want to be on Bloodthirsty rank, you would be on... you would have 7 Primuses to deal with. So, which is insane. The Primus abilities are very, very mean. But, yeah, you just go from deck to deck. This is actually where you use the chip tracker. That's to kind of show where you're at. So you actually have to move from deck to deck, from adjacent deck, and then either spectate on that, which means you use the spectate ability of the Primus, or of the Scion, or you deal with whatever that card is. And the card can be a Bloodshed, which will, have various effects where the Scion influence ramps up as you're, fighting more and more. They have health as well, and again, it's all stuff you've seen from Solar Sentinels, where it's like, their health, their damage, and there's obviously the new rules of a Scion deck that you have to deal with. But then you can go and have an opportunity. Like, the opportunity will have a very specific thing you have to complete, and if you complete it, then you get the major ability. These sports have various... not necessarily rules, you just have to kind of deal with them just like you would in Bloodsheds. There are these tactics you can get for completing sports. Bolster health after your health is reduced, +2 health. Stun at the start of the suffer damage step, reduce the damage of an enemy to 0 for that. And there's just those 4. But what's also really cool about Hoplomachus, and this is the one that does the most with your dice. Because the other two, these two, Solar Sentinels, you just had your dice. And you just rolled those as you wanted. All that's still here. And Too Many Bones, you used misses for backup plans. Hoplomachus, you actually start with... you don't start with all of your dice. Some of them are in your training camp because they incorporate a rule of retrieving and dismissing, as well as weakening and strengthening. So like when you strengthen a die, you take your lowest value die in your actual pool, your dice pool, and you upgrade it from a die in your training camp. And the opposite can happen. Oh, you have to weaken a die. Okay, you take one of your dice and you lower it. So, for example, if you were to strengthen a yellow from your training camp, or it would become a green, and vice versa. And that is hugely incorporated. Like, there's a lot of constantly, mitigating dice, moving where dice are. And what's funny is I found this one to be right in the middle of the other two. Like, Solar Sentinels, and this is all normal difficulty. I'm not trying to be, a sweat here and try and be like, I've beat them all on the highest difficulty, because I'm a liar. This is all normal difficulty. Solar Sentinels was the easiest. Too Many Bones is the hardest. Hoplomachus is right in the middle. But it felt like really, really good. And I'm just amazed that they were able to do a lot without having to have a whole lot of moving pieces. Yeah, you have the movement of the mountain, and that was really cool too, because you would look at all of your options and be like, okay, well, I really want that ability off of that enemy, but it's all the way down at the bottom, and I have to get through these two that are adjacent to me, and they add more enemies. What enemies are they going to add? Okay, do I just spectate? No, because I don't want to deal with the spectate ability of the stupid Scion that I picked. It has, all three of these have just had the puzzle aspect of that I just was not expecting with this. And then, yeah, it has the... I like the fact that all three of them do culminate with a boss. You eventually, once you defeat the number of Primuses, in the normal game it's 3. Once you go fight the Primuses and defeat them, then you have to make it to the top. You make it to the top, and then it's like, oh, it's Cabane. You flip him over, and it tells you enemies to start with at the round, and then his ability is dice cannot be applied to him until the Scion... what was it? Scion Influence? Yeah, the Scion Influence deck is depleted. But, in fact, the last game I played against him, because you tailor your strengths to deal with the boss that you fight. That's how Victorum is meant to be played in 6 hours. But it's like, okay, this is who I'm going to try and defeat, so I'm going to try and level up to be able to defeat him. There were a lot of enemies that actually quelled that deck, so by the time I even got to him, there was no Scion Influence deck, and it's just like, oh, looks like hits can be assigned to you. But I think that was kind of purely circumstantial. Yeah, really like how the dice work. Love the amount of Scions and the amount of characters. The fact that the Primuses are characters you can play, as well as be enemies at the end. Again, this felt like Hoplomachus Victorum without taking, 6 hours. You can go look at the time, how long it took my Victorum campaign. It was insane. Now, of course, these aren't as in-depth. I'm not saying, ooh, this replaces Too Many Bones for me. But if I'm like, I don't really want to set that up, I kind of want to just quickly get in the game, and I don't feel like playing Too Many Bones. Okay, sure, I can pop this in. This one absolutely replaces Hoplomachus Victorum because I didn't like it, but I like this one the most out of these three, which is surprising. So yeah, 20 strong is so surprising to me of a game. Because, yeah, the time 30 to 40 minutes, that's 100% correct. I know they're actually going out for more decks. I think there's already a Game Found preview page for more decks. They even give you some previews of whoever the hell these characters are. So, yeah, here's how, like, basically my biggest complaint is the storage solution. I think it's basically trash. It's completely useless. I mean, it kind of works right now to just put this here with the decks behind, but what if they keep making these, which I can't imagine is too expensive for them. I'd like to see more for the decks they previously have. I would love to also see more decks, so I think we're going to have 6 total after that Game Found. Like, just kind of a really neat, like, 20 strong big storage box where you just have like your core thing, like kind of like what Final Girl does, where it's like, here's your core stuff, which in this case is the dice. So you take the dice out and then you just take the deck you want to play. Like, what am I feeling? I think I'll play Hoplomachus Victorum, and you just slide this out. Yeah, I'm very impressed. Hoplomachus Victorum gets a 9 out of 10 for me, so they kind of went up. So Solar Sentinals is a 7, Too Many Bones is an 8, Hoplomachus Victorum is a 9, so 16, 21, so, I mean, funny enough, if I averaged all 3 of them, Solar Sentinels would get a 7 for me, which is what I originally thought I was going to give it. I was thinking 7, but as I played this more and more, and how quickly it was for me to just get to the table, shuffle, get going, and still have a fulfilled puzzle experience, whether I won or lost, I think I'm gonna give Solar Sentinels 20 strong and 8. It's a neat little game from Chip Theory. So yeah, that's my thoughts on 20 strong. Well, let me know what you think of the game in the comments below. Other than that, like, comment, share, and subscribe, and have a wonderful whatever time of day it is for you. Hey everyone, thank you for watching, and I really hope that you enjoyed the video. If you would like to see more of my content, go ahead and click that subscribe button and the bell to be notified whenever I upload any new content. If you feel like supporting the channel, you can go ahead and click that Patreon link to be taken to my Patreon, and any help is truly appreciated. Other than that, stick around for any other run-throughs or reviews or cool top 10s or whatever I feel like putting on. Other than that, like, comment, share, and subscribe, and have a wonderful whatever time of day it is for you.